and gentlemen, I am say a poem for you called So. So! You can count your karma if nirvana is your goal. You can shake and you can rattle. You can rock and roll. You can be a Clark Kent or a Lois or an Alice down a hole. You can be a vampire on a mountain with a heart of stone black coal. You can be a leather angel on a sleek black Harley bike. Or a redhead screaming faggot, or a dazzling dyke. You can lock yourself in a closet in a fine meat stove, but it really doesn't matter if you ain't got soul.
Say that we're sick, we're crazy, and some of them think that we are the most gorgeous, special things on earth.
Or sweet
Yeah,
memory.
I mean, for most transgender people, we don't really like to see pictures of us before transitioning because life was really hard beforehand. So they're generally not happy memories. You're kind of being like, okay, that was me living a life that wasn't me. I wasn't being myself, and I wasn't really happy. So.
The bitch. Did you sign No, I didn't sign any release. And if she releases any picture on me, I will sue the fool. She won't make money off of my name, darling. She can make it off of Harlow and all the rest of the fools that will flock to her. But not Crystal, darling. Anybody but her.
I think I was watching an interview with him and he said something that said, it's easy to be who you are when who you are is popular.
Of course, I mean, like...
And I thought that really was something that really stuck out to me. Can you say what that means to you?
Well, it's truth, and being easy to be who you are when who you are is popular speaks volumes to those of us who have been marginalized, to those of us who have been disenfranchised, because we're not popular, so no one knew us. No one wanted to get to know us. No one wanted to speak to us. No one wanted to engage us, right? But it was okay for them to take our stories. It was okay for them to take our sayings, our slangs. It was okay for them to take our dance moves, which is movement. Our voguing tells a story. It is so amazing. So we were not popular.
Now you want to talk about reading? Let's talk about reading. What is wrong with you, Pedro? Are you going through it? You're going through some kind of psychological change in your life?
She went back to be a man.
Oh, you went back to being a man. Touch this skin, darling. Touch this skin, honey. Touch all of this skin. Okay? You just can't take it. You're just an overgrown orangutan.
Rights. Ballroom scene has been demonized and kept in the dark for so long. And the LGBTQ people have been kept in the dark for so long, to the point that we created our own world. And now everybody wants a piece of it.
I want you to know, before you step outside, that you are a warrior. You are a warrior who is allowed to be soft, a warrior that is allowed to be scared, a warrior that is allowed to ask for help, but still a warrior. I need you to know that when I am writing this, I have changed my outfit 17 times. I have removed my makeup for fear of insult. I have changed the way I walk down the street, but that I am still a warrior. I need you to know that when I am writing this, I have told myself it is okay to wish for something easier. I have told myself it is okay to sometimes want to give up. I have told myself it is okay to feel alone, but that I am still a warrior. I want you to know before you step outside that there are others stepping here too. That people have stepped before us, with us, and after us, that the pavements can feel so lonely, but I know I have stepped there too. That we have existed before and exist in the present and exist in the future, that we come from a line of warriors we did not ask to fight, but we know how to survive. Before you step outside, we love you. Before you step outside, I love you. Before you step outside, breathe.
What does gender euphoria feel like?
Gender euphoria feels like...
Gender euphoria feels like...
Gender euphoria to me feels like a sense of pride in myself, that I've finally done or become the person I needed to be seen like this, or to feel like this, and for other people.
It's like when you look in the
me the way
mirror
I am.
and you know that you
Gender
look hot.
euphoria for me feels like when all parts of me align with myself. Like, the person who I feel that I am resonates with the person that I'm perceived to be.
When you finally find a pair of pants that fit really well.
Gender euphoria
spring morning,
feels like
fresh
all of
dew
the
on
times
the
when I was
grass.
little, when the boys on the sports teams I was on would forget that I wasn't a boy.
Like warmth,
that felt pretty
and
good.
fuzziness.
Coming home and being comfortable and safe in your mind and in your body, and finally starting to get to know yourself after feeling lost for so long.
Forgetting that gender is a thing.
What gives me gender euphoria is, the specific example I can think of is walking down the street and knowing that anyone I pass can't assign me whatever their idea of gender is or what they think I should be, because I look too androgynous for them to be able to decide what they see me
What
as.
gives me gender euphoria is my binder, first and foremost. Love of my life.
Wearing flannel shirts. Wearing blush.
Or doing things like dyeing my hair, piercing my skin. Like, they are not reactionary to like my
Being with
identity,
my
but they give me a
friends
sense of
and
autonomy over my body
existing
because I'm able to change things.
outside of being a sexual body or
I think for me
thing
it's
to be
not
looked
so
at.
much about passing or fitting into some socially conventional gender stereotype. It's more about being seen for who I am and people respecting my pronouns and recognizing my identity, but not feeling like they have to know everything about it or understand it even, because I don't think I understand it myself sometimes.
And who inspires me?
People who are still kind after everything. People who create things for the joy of it.
And
for the
people
joy
who are
that it
able to
brings other
turn their
people.
suffering into something positive, or even just survive it.
Seeing
you
one
know?
other person that's like you do the things that you want to do and express confidence in the things that you want to do.
And who inspires me?
Can
I
make
think
the
my friends.
whole world a difference.
Absolutely, my friends. I don't think I'd have ever been able to voice my feelings on gender.
Everyone inspires me.
Without my friends.
It's like a cop-out answer, but I think it's quite true because you learn something from everyone.
I have long hair. I wear floral patterned Dr. Martens with long skirts, red lipstick and pink eyeshadow. I look like a woman, so that's how I get treated out in public. But for whatever reason, whenever I was treated like one, when I was grouped with the girls in my class, when I was called the nice lady by a customer at work, when I bought a pink glittery bath bomb or a floral scented candle and the shop assistant's interactions with me made it obvious they considered me a cis girl, I would feel like I was getting away with something I shouldn't. When a guy I'd never met before offered to buy me a drink based on my short black dress and cleavage, I felt like I was tricking him too. I am not what you think I am.
If you've ever been dehydrated in an art gallery, you'll know the feeling. When it's that little bit too warm, it's summer, it's afternoon. Your friends are yelling back that they're going on ahead, but you barely hear them through the noise of the paint. You're dizzy from straining your neck to gaze upwards to the higher paintings, lack of water, hazy vision. You feel as though you could stare at these pieces forever. There's a hand on your arm as your friend lets you know they'll be in the gift shop. They ask if you're coming. Oh, you say, quietly, forlornly. But I didn't get to read the little information label.
I felt like gender was entirely binary as a young child. It was law, it was black and white. At At some point between the ages of 6 and 7, I flipped from abiding by monochrome pink and rigidly girly things to what in my world was the opposite. Boy clothes, rough games, mud, the colour blue. I remember nothing of this transition, only that one day I was one thing and then the next another, as if it were seamless, effortless. I knew who I was then, but not what that meant. After a few years of this, I began to drift from an insistent, militant boyhood towards a kind of middle. I was able to interact with femininity but not ever belong to it, slot into it, or have it truly resonate. This grey area had its comforts, but it was also stagnant, tepid. It was a place to hide, to congeal into something but never solidify. I spent many years in the grey place, hiding, until I started actively seeking answers to what this feeling was. I tried all kinds of clothes, affectations, friends, asking always what this meant. I grew through the asking, but never found an answer. Gender is incredibly stressful, and after a long period of seeking identity, I decided to just leave it be. This is where I am today, still kind of fluid, still confused, but now happy just to go with it. I'm very lucky to have always been surrounded by people who let me do just that.
Taking clothing or accessories stereotypes to either end of the spectrum and making them the opposite. Corsetting myself with painted nails but being perceived to be hypermasculine, or wearing harsh shoulder lines with slicked back hair all the while being elegantly feminine. Mishmashing the misconception of a so-called binary to the point of hotness on a new level, sexually frustrating everyone around me to the next. Explicit and absolute euphoria.
I need rest now.
My mum is a second-wave feminist, and in an effort to combat gender stereotypes, she resisted from getting me anything girly. I wore my male cousin's hand-me-downs. I had short hair. My toys were teddies and trucks. I don't remember feeling unhappy with this, though the only game I played with my trucks was mammies and daddies, but that changed when I went to play school and the other girls didn't want to play with me because I looked like a boy. The boys didn't want to play with me either because I was too soft, too sensitive. I wanted to be accepted. I was upset that the short hair, plain black socks and glitterless shoes made girls react this way. So I rebelled as I got older, wearing glittery clothes, asking to have my bedroom walls painted pink, begging for Bratz dolls, spending my pocket money on nail polish, all the while pretending I didn't notice my mother rolling her eyes. It still wasn't enough. Every time I hung out with the girls, I felt like I was failing some kind of test. I fell even further behind as I came to secondary school, showing up to sleepovers in flannel pajamas while everyone else wore crop tops and shorts, wearing unscented roll-on deodorant while the other girls sprayed Hollister fragrance over themselves in the changing room, and being too scared to buy makeup or wear short skirts. I didn't fit in with the boys either. They were loud and called me names. I had no desire to kick a football around, throw food at people, or swig energy drinks. I retreated into myself, not knowing what I was supposed to be.
If you've ever woken from an accidental nap, you'll know the feeling. Out of place, out of time, not sure where you are, or not sure even when or who you are. It's dark outside. It wasn't dark out when you fell asleep, was it? Did you fall asleep? You must have. There's a blank gap in your memory. You don't know when the sleep started. Is there music playing? You had only meant to rest for a second. But hey, you're up now. And you do feel rested.
I am silver and exact. I have no preconceptions. Whatever I see, I swallow immediately, just as it is, unmisted by love or dislike. I am not cruel, only truthful, the eye of a little god, four-cornered. Most of the time I meditate on the opposite wall. It is pink with speckles. I have looked at it so long, I think it is part of my heart. But it flickers. Faces and darkness separate us over and over.
What I really wanted to say was that a monster is not such a terrible thing to be. From the Latin root monstrum, a divine messenger of catastrophe, then adapted by the Old French to mean an animal of myriad origins: centaur, griffin, satyr. To be a monster is to be a hybrid signal, a lighthouse. Both shelter and warning at once.
The moon is trans. From this moment forward, the moon is trans. You don't get to write about the moon anymore unless you respect that. You don't get to talk to the moon anymore unless you use her correct pronouns. You don't get to send men to the moon anymore unless their job is to bow down before her and apologize for the sins of the earth. She is waiting for you, pulling at you softly, telling you to shut the fuck up already, please.
We appear like feral things in the fir trees, intricate and bewildered by the script in us. Tell us what is written in the flesh of us.
I love the amount of love I have to give. I like how happy my smile can look. I like the blue of my eyes. I love my cooking and like how I won't leave the stove until the flavour is just right. I love how I have an eye for small details that can make all the difference. I like my giving nature, even if I receive nothing in return. I love my broad taste and open-mindedness when it comes to music. And I love how I can see both sides to every story. But what I love most is how I can see the good in everyone.
I am whatever I am when I am it.
Bear with me. It wasn't long ago I was brainless, lazily pulling fireflies into my teeth, chewing them into pure light. So much of me then was nothing. I could have fit into a sugar cube. My body burned like a barn full of feathers. Nothing was on fire, but fire was on everything. The wild mustard, the rotting porch chair, a box of birth records. Eventually, even scorched earth goes green. It's true, I suppose. You grow to love the creatures you create. Some of them come out with pupils swirling, others with teeth.
I am my mother's daughter. I am midnight sun. You can find me on the moon, waxing and waning, my heart full of petals. Every single one begging, love me, love me, love me. Whoever I am, whoever I become, love me, love me, love me.
There's a street somewhere where no one needs a gender. The word doesn't exist unless you want it to. The street is narrow and cobblestoned, worn smooth by the high heels and heavy boots and hand-me-down trainers. Whenever I'm there, the light is different. Tonight, a crescent moon smiles down and my skirt sweeps the floor, and I am elegant in its flowing formlessness. No one sees me, a dark shape in the shadow of a doorway. The liminality feels like peace. I can rest here. Tomorrow, it will be a cold spring dawn, the sun only just dripping down from the rooftops to the street. I am radiant, sequins and patterns and colours too bright for the eye to keep hold of for long. I'm in a crowd, and I smile, and people smile back. I run and skip and jump for no reason, the joy inside me overflowing, so overwhelming it has to be converted to kinetic. I am a blur of colour, a garish eyesore. Next week, it will be a late summer evening. The light muted, fading oranges and yellows, enveloping the people and brickwork as if tucking the street up under a blanket of soft beams. You can come along if you want. We can sit on the curb together. It will be warm, comfortable, and feel like home.
A moment that I felt gender euphoria was when I was 16. I had spent the early years of my adolescence being a totally formless blob in every conceivable way. Some of this was the inevitable teen blob phase, but a lot of the discomfort in my self-expression stemmed from a discomfort in my body, an innate wrongness, stickiness, tea gone coldness. But then I turned 16, cut my hair, and started actively seeking out answers, information, and acceptance in myself. I experimented with my clothing in a much more conscious way than I ever had before. I attended queer and trans spaces, learning from others my age. There was so much terminology that I didn't understand, so much nuance that I eagerly but anxiously grappled with. Masculine, feminine, transmasculine, bigender, agender. This all seemed like a whirlwind of contradictions, but I was ardent to find my place among it all. Much like an earlier confusion with my sexuality, I found myself frustrated that I couldn't think my way through it. I couldn't simply assess the relevant definitions and find the right fit for what I was. I felt like I was too much in flux to be able to settle into something definitively, and that somehow underqualified me to engage with my gender in a legitimate way. Gender fluid was a term that I particularly fidgeted with. It didn't quite land for me. How would such a thing manifest? What did that even feel like? One evening, on Parliament Street, I approached what I saw as a highly qualified queer, who I also fancied, who had just done a presentation on being genderqueer, stating that they identified as gender fluid. I asked them what they had essentially already explained. What did it mean? In simple, blunt terms, they described it as something that was simply prone to change. Whatever you felt, you were in that moment. That lit about 6 million light bulbs in my brain, and I felt like I had suddenly been allowed to set down something extremely heavy that I would never have to carry again. I felt an elation, a lightness, a simple joy. On the bus home that evening, I found myself not only happy with who I was, but excited for who I would become. Often, happiness as a feeling is actually the absence of sadness or pain that allows you to relax. And while it seems reductive to define something by its lack, that day I was no longer heavy. I was not a what, but a who. And that is identity. Who you are will change. It is ever shifting, mercurial, complex, beautiful.
Coke Zero. A bitter lemon flecked with green mould. Pine-scented candles, the wax hardening on my fingers. Nettle tea and ink stains, green apple candy on my tongue. Chipped nail polish, red lipstick, broken snail shells and stones from the seaside. Wearing my stepdad's socks. The dripping of a tap. The little things, the little moments slipping between the cracks.
Gliding across the stage in satin point shoes, fabric flows around during pirouette to attitude promenade. Leaping with grace, astonishing the audience. Like legends before, the lines are perfectly beautiful. Swan-like brilliance of crystal white and black, mountain lily and violet grass. Wind-swept arabesque along the crimson-lined coast. A grand finale of periwinkle passion and ravishing ovation. I am the prima ballerina.
My gender is a wonky umbrella. There's just enough function there to hang on to it. It's not quite broken enough to discard, but it's a nuisance. And every time it rains, I think, why don't I just throw the damn thing out? Get a new one. But where would you even leave something like this? Is there space in the local recycling centre? I panic and feel guilty and keep it, still sodden in the rain. Gender is a stone in my shoe, a hole in my glove. It's a wet sock, a hanging nail, an infected tooth. It's a jigsaw piece that just won't fit.
My gender is a slipped stitch in a row of knitting. Like, That toothpaste you use as a kid that has little sparkles and stars in it. My gender is flightless bird. Mug with no handle. A box of wet matches, doodles in the margins of an old book. My gender is when you're walking past a window or mirror or something and you see a figure in the corner of your vision and you're like, oh shit, someone's following me. But then you take a second look and find it's only your reflection. It's the soft orange glow of street lights reflecting in muddy puddles. It's the feeling when you're climbing a tree and you finally reach the topmost branch. Like when you fully submerge yourself in the ocean and it's windy and stormy and you think, maybe today will be the day I'm washed out to sea. But you're kind of okay with that.
Gender is above all else weird. I think it's weird for everyone really, but we don't have the words or time or energy to unpack it all. Because it's convenient, right? It's a handy way of sorting people out. It cuts down on decisions like what colour should we paint the baby's room, what outfit you should wear to the party, and what bathroom you should use. Sometimes I think we use gender as a shorthand for personality traits and interests and what we expect from someone, but who decided what was feminine and what was masculine? Pink was considered a masculine colour in the 1920s. It's all arbitrary. So the fact that I happen to like things considered girly, like lipstick and flowers and bath bombs, shouldn't have any bearing on my identity. So I don't really know what my gender weirdness stems from, even though I've spent many nights trying to figure it out. But now I don't think it really matters. The way I see it, it's just kind of like acting. The world's a stage. We're all playing a series of parts every day. Girl's just another one of them. When I come home, it falls away with all the other masks. Without taking off my makeup or changing my clothes or any perceivable physical change, it's just suddenly gone.
Have you ever heard of Mother Nature? Moving through trees of willow or pine, I dance along the forest floor. You see me, look up and through the density, trying to catch a glimpse of sunshine. Birds lift with it, flight, how jealous I am of them, you. To sing is to express. I do as I move. The music of the landscape takes me. I don't care anymore about you or them or the place or us or the world. I don't care anymore about you or them or this place or us or the world. Fuck the world. I dance, I sing, I'm lost. Fuck the world. I'm so immaculate, I find it hard to breathe. So fuck the world. It could have been all of us, but I need to do this for myself. So fuck the world. Mystic and loving, I now float. I'm stunning. Beautiful. Everything.
Who gave you the right?
Why?
Who gender?
When gender? How gender?
Where gender?
Wherefore art thou gender?
Would a gender by any other name smell as sweet?
Would you like a drink with your gender?
Would you like a gender with that?
Do you bite your thumb at my gender? If you want some avocado with your gender, it's another 70 cents.
You can get your gender gift wrap for free. Can I return this?
Do you have the receipt?
Assigned gender at birth. Damn, I'm overdue.
Where do you store your gender? In a cool, dry place. Once opened, consume within 3 days.
Are you talking to my gender? Well, there's nobody else here.
If I've got no gender, and you've got no gender, then who the hell is flying the plane?
Who are you wearing?
Is it gluten-free?
Do you think if I just super glue it back together, it'll be alright?
Have you tried turning it off and on
Can I
again?
get that with no cheese?
What colour is your
Gender
gender?
is making a weird noise. Is
Would you
it
like
meant
to
to do
install
that?
updates? Anyone else's gender do this?
I am a
Emotional,
very
not
legitimate
clickbait.
investor. Would you like me to put 20,000 in your account?
Which gender
now
do
for
you
your
have?
gender?
Which gender is
If
this?
you don't know this gender, you've probably
You have a
never
gender?
heard of it. It's
Name
pretty
5
underground.
Your rat brain can handle how sexy I am, and it's giving you a crisis.
Whirling sunbeam field of whipping wheat, colouring the air, texturing evening. A stomp, chuck and scream, an echoing rusted beat, a gilded splash and glistening ache. New song. Nice! Thump thump. Twirling and waving, grace in rust, the boot of the ballet dancer, scraping silver from shoveled sky, a mouth of dirt and beaming smile, the sway and the rock.
Punch, punch, punch! Ah! I'm so scary! I'm intimidating! So you want to kiss me, Tom? Kiss me! Ew, don't touch me long. Okay, wait, maybe.
Jump, up, down, free, move, bop, let loose. Those wiggly men at petrol stations? Kick, round and round, arms spin, flick, twirl.
Wild, whipping, wood-splintering beat, suffused orchestra of oaken spill, cavernous mouth of sound, swallowing body and spirit, in the breath we take, throwing ourselves into pockets of unknown space, reaching in this living room a pitch of glimmer, meteor of cardboard stars, a tin hat wizard and wanded beam, looping from consonant to vowel in perfect pearlescent script, chord to throat to breathless shriek, bellowing into embers to awaken the dust, cavorting with gestures in a purple must, misted vision must encrust a supple fish-eyed dip and bend through arms and legs and you and me and chest and head and the places we end and begin, snake swallowing tails, silver tongue cut free, nothing but dance and body, pound alive, feel muscles weaken, flexing down to cracks in floor, slipping gently, balance leaking, loss of splendor creeping into sight. I tire, we separate. We refurl and tighten, rusting our coils, two snakes. Tiresias is a boy once more, single spirit, uncomplicated past, unsmudged belonging. Identity set in bones and blood, euphoning under a weak light sun. There through time we squeeze to separation, atomized, tethered. Gravity's last attempts at thrust choking through empty air. Silence rises and rings like a siren. Emptiness until the song starts again.
So, this is how it goes. I am 14 and I am on the bus to a hockey match, and me and my best friend are just settling in to start our Studio Ghibli film of the week. And the motion picture of choice this week was Howl's Moving Castle. I lean my weary head, weighed down by the trials and tribulations of adolescence, on her shoulder, and we share a blanket for the hour-long bus ride. Within the first 5 minutes of the film, a lithe, elegant figure glides down into an alleyway, wearing a cloak and flowing shirt and these fitted black trousers. He has a chin-length blonde bob and the deepest voice imaginable. I gasp a little My friend looks at me with the queerest expression on her face, and we exit the bus. I spend the match distracted, a head full of glowing jewellery and falling stars and changing hair colour and black feathers. On the ride back, we finish the film, almost falling asleep in the orange glow of the streetlights. And as the credits roll, I murmur something into my friend's neck. "What?" she says. "Oh, I was just saying, I don't know if I want to be Hal, or if I want to be with Hal."
I remember being 15 years old. There was a girl I was friends with long dark hair and freckles. She was so beautiful, I thought. I wish that I could be like her. One night she slept over at my house and she started to cry and tell me about the boy who was breaking her heart. I tried to comfort her, tentatively holding her in my arms, saying soothing words, all the while thinking, I wish that I was him, so that I could treat you the way you deserve. It was weird because even though I knew queer women existed, I watched Glee after all, I couldn't reconcile the image with myself. And it wasn't like I didn't like boys, granted not the boys in my class, but Tom Hiddleston and Finnick from the Hunger Games. So I rationalised the fact that I was falling in love with these girls by writing it off as the concern of a friend. I'm just so sad she has to get her heart broken like this. If only I was a boy so I could buy her flowers and hold her hand in public. Maybe it's just because all the girls I liked were straight. When guys perceive me as a girl, it's weird. I don't discourage it either, because when I make the effort, they can find me attractive, and there is something in that which appeals to my 14-year-old self, who got asked out as a joke every other day. But even then, I feel like I'm tricking them somehow, and I also have to worry about how they'll react to the whole bisexual thing. Some guys are gross about it, others use it as an excuse to keep things casual, telling me they could never date someone like me seriously because they'd be too scared I'd cheat. I used to wish I could shapeshift, just be a basic cis-het girl when I was interested in a guy, or a basic cis-het guy when I was interested in a girl. But then I realized I wouldn't be me.
I felt in the past that my attraction to women should put me on the man side of the field. But then I learned that the sides don't exist. The field has no boundaries. It's not even a field, but one of those big aquariums you go to when you're little, with a big glass wall full of fish, and look, there's a shark, but then a turtle? Everyone cares more about the turtle more than anything else, even though the lanternfish is literally right there. Injustice exists on every level. However, there's definitely a kind of starlit wonder to a wall of fins and water, seemingly extending forever. Thinking about gender and sexuality makes me feel like I'm trying to figure out the bubbles in the tank, but really I just get lost looking at how pretty the bubbles are. And kind of weird, moving and morphing so rapidly, elegant but clownish. Maybe that's what gender feels like. It's certainly what the process of definition feels like. In attempting to define myself, I've gotten lost in the bubbles. But it can be immensely enjoyable. Until you're the last one there at the aquarium, and the security guard comes and turns off the lights, and you're alone in the room with these fish and this light, and it's kind of dark and plinky cold. And why is the rock wet? Ew. But that's what the fish literally need to breathe. Suddenly you feel like you're no longer the observer but the observed. And not quite the living one, but the ghost, staring coldly into flashing, writhing life. And it's beautiful. To be removed, to be separate, formless for once, a ghostly shadow. Can ghosts have shadows? It would imply they can block light, which wouldn't make sense if they aren't corporeal. But maybe you are a corporeal ghost in this scenario, the only one of its kind. And you're staring at the fish and loving women and having and not having a body, confused and afraid, awed and transfixed.
Sexuality ex gender, enemies to lovers. When I was a kid, there were so many negative connotations around being gay. Gay itself was used as the negative term, and the F slur was constantly thrown around. In my naive little Catholic boy brain, I thought I wanted to be a woman, as I knew I was attracted to the other boys in my school. I was quite feminine and enjoyed dressing up, only ever playing female characters in video games, and that I couldn't possibly be that dirty word everyone used when slagging each other off. I also thought that I could just flick a switch when I was 18 and I would be a woman, easy peasy. At this stage, knowing nothing about transgender, gender non-conforming, gender fluidity. As I grew up and learned more of the world, I realised that this is not the case, and that being any of the previously mentioned is completely natural and human. Still, to this day, however, I always only play female-identifying characters in video games. It was always the female character in Pokemon. Never played a Legend of Zelda game because you don't even play as the icon herself. What the fuck, Nintendo? Even in Cluedo, if it's not Scarlet, Peacock, or White, I don't want to play anymore. I suppose this connects back to that childhood of questioning constantly those negatives around my sexuality, bestowed upon me by those people. I'm sick and tired of shying away from my femininity. Although I do like to take the image of masculinity and enjoy what it gives, I also love connecting with my feminine self. I no longer can give two fucks about what anyone thinks of it. Because I'm hot. And that's final. X.